Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim. And tonight we are going to talk about the difference in efficiency AI versus opportunity AI and how agentic AI might be bringing even more opportunities to the table. Now, the reason we're having this conversation is for two reasons, actually. We had a conversation at A&M University back in October where we actually talked about this to senior level students, and the response was amazing. They enjoyed learning the difference in efficiency versus opportunity AI. And now we're going to be talking at Hudson-Tillotson University in March, and we're going to cover the same topic. So we're going to spend about half an hour talking about this, trying to educate not just you, the listener, but Jim's going to do some educating for me because this is your 30 minutes. This is when Jim gets to do his core dump and have my undivided attention.
I don't think I ever get 30 minutes. Maybe.
It's your 30 minutes.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay.
So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that you and I were just having this conversation a couple of minutes ago. I tend to view opportunities happening in larger cities. And you pointed out that with agentic AI and some of the other stuff that's coming with artificial intelligence, that it really doesn't matter where you're at as long as you recognize the new opportunity that is there.
Yes, and you have to understand the technology well enough. By the way, I'm kind of hoarse again. I'm never going to get over this COVID that I had.
But you're fine.
This is what happens when you have COVID.
Take a break, you just start coughing, and I'll start talking.
This is what happens when you have COVID and asthma. It's a bad combination.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, I made some notes. So I'm going to refer back to my notes quite a bit. We talked there last year. I really enjoyed it. It is a small, used to be minority college outside of Austin. It's been there for a long time. Got great views. They have the great location. But I wasn't expecting much because it's such a small college. I really wasn't expecting much response. But what we got was a room of people, and there was probably maybe 15 or 20. I thought there'd be 4, but I always say 4. But they asked very good questions.
Yes.
And then we went to A&M not long ago, and we were talking to the seniors in business. Again, very good questions. And their interests in opportunity, many of them came up afterward and said, I really like the way you guys explain that, because they haven't been taught AI at all, and they certainly haven't been taught it from the perspective of opportunities. They only hear about it in terms of a chatbot and efficiency.
That's the point that I wanted to make right then, is something that really hit me is that the people that we are talking to that are the juniors and the seniors and the PhD students at university level, they have learned about artificial intelligence based on their curiosity, not based on a curriculum that they were taught.
Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing, except because that's the way they were taught. There's so much focus on using it as an efficiency tool.
Right.
And opportunity is something that it's harder to describe. Opportunity is opportunity. I mean, because this was a business school. I mean, some of these people may want to go out and be entrepreneurs or even go work for a large company, but they're looking for opportunities to do better. Anyway. So
real quick, let's define what my definition is and see if you agree with me about efficiency AI versus opportunity AI. Now, there's a podcaster that you love to watch.
Nathaniel.
AI Daily Brief.
AI Daily Brief.
I'm not sure if he's the one that coined the term.
That's where I heard it.
But it's where we have heard it before.
Yes.
And it is something that is out there. And the difference to me, efficiency AI is something that makes me or helps me do something I am already doing faster.
And it's typically email that everybody mentions.
It's reading emails. Yes. It's sorting my grocery list. It's keeping up with my calendar. It's those things that I'm already doing as a human. It's just helping me do it a little more efficiently, and it's helping me do it faster. So it's taking some stuff off my plate.
Yes.
Opportunity AI is when you do something that you never would have considered doing,
or you couldn't
before. Or you couldn't consider doing
that.
It before.
The definition is that it can create opportunities that didn't exist or were difficult to do before.
Right.
That's the
something
typical
you wouldn't
definition.
have tackled.
Right.
Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about agentic AI. Now with agentic AI, how is that going to fit into the opportunity section?
Well, let's talk about what it is first.
Okay.
Definition.
All right.
Best definition that I found was an agentic system. You give it a goal, it decides what the steps are to get to that goal. And to some degree, it even decides when it's done, but you should give it enough information if you're doing a good job with the prompting side of it,
Give me an
telling
example.
what to do.
I need an example.
Everybody uses the same examples.
Travel.
That's the same. I want to go somewhere, but that's a very open-ended task. I want to go to London. I want to spend a week there. I need a hotel. I need, cars. I need all this stuff. Let's just focus on the hotel. Which hotel? I mean, maybe you go to London a lot, so you have a hotel. But if you're like, when I went, I didn't. We used a travel agent. That was a long time ago, but we used a travel agent. And she was basically my agent. Well, not basically, she was. Right. I would say, I'm going to London. She knew London. She knew hotels. She knew the price ranges that we were allowed to use because I was working for a business. So she did all that work and came back and said, here's your hotel.
Here's your itinerary.
And here's your itinerary.
Yes.
It does. Agents can do a similar thing. That's an example.
So the goal is a trip to Europe. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to figure out all of the steps that it's going to need to take,
right,
based on your basic criteria,
mm-hmm,
to get you where you need to go.
Well, because a lot of times the criteria is either nebulous because you don't take the time to define it, or it's nebulous because it's too hard to define it, which is why there are currently tools, which I use, like N8N, Make, and Zapier. Those are workflow tools. And a large language model can use those workflows you can create in those as a tool. So for example, you could say, I need all my unread emails. That's a workflow, and it's a well-defined workflow. If I'm using Google or I'm using Microsoft, it doesn't matter. I have an API that allows me to access my email account. So I go out, I get all my unread emails, and I bring them to this workflow. And then maybe the language model, based on other criteria that's in that workflow, does something with them. The problem with those is they do great if it's a well-defined problem. Mm-hmm. They do great if you know what the output's going to look like clearly. They don't do very well if the problem is poorly defined, just like the travel example we gave a second ago. So they have a place, these tools do, these workflows. They can't be the end all. People want more. They want, as you always say, they want Jarvis.
They want Jarvis. Yes. So is that why everyone's really excited about agentic AI versus just normal everyday? Normal everyday. I never thought I'd say normal everyday when it comes to artificial intelligence, but it is normal everyday now. It's in everything, and they're forcing it to be into everything.
Yes.
Is that why people are so excited about agentic AI?
Yes. I mean,
aren't you a little nervous about agentic AI?
Well, I am, and people should be. I mean, there's so many potential security holes in this, because the most common one is an open source project. This is one most people have heard about these things. It's called OpenClaw. Mm-hmm. It started out with different names, Claudebot, because it was using the Claude or Anthropic API in the background. But either way, it basically, you have to give it full access to your machine. So most people used a Mac because that's what the guy originally wrote it on. Mm-hmm. The Mac is more of a consumer level. The Mac Mini is a consumer device. So it's really easy to give yourself full access. We call it root level or admin access to the machine. When you do that, it can read and write files. It can search things for you. It can read and do emails on your behalf. It can do all that stuff.
It can access your passwords.
Yes. It has to be able to.
Right.
To be able to, do the stuff you want it to do. So there's a lot of people going, you're all loading these things on these machines, and the security implications are pretty serious. But at the same time, if you don't have something like that, the example I was talking about, the workflow a second ago. Let's go back to the emails a second ago. I think that I haven't talked to John in a while. And if that's true, I'd like to send an email to him, kind of reconnecting. Maybe we can have a coffee. That's a very generic task. Mm-hmm. But if you use an OpenClaw, it can handle that task. Now, it has to have a workflow, and it may be something like an N8N kind of workflow. So, it has to have a way of accessing your email, but it can do that.
The old-fashioned, let's do lunch.
Yes, it can do that for you.
Literally,
you outsourced it.
Can outsource setting up the let's do lunch.
Yes. But
it's tempting. It is tempting. Back
to that security thing again we talked about. Do you want it sending an email to John without you at least approving the email?
I think that the younger generation the ones that are already putting the devices in their cars to make sure they're driving okay so they
Yes.
get better insurance rates.
Yes, Rachel.
I think that younger generation is probably going to be okay with this.
Yes, you're talking about Rachel again. Poor Rachel.
I'm just talking about Rachel.
I know she's not the only one doing it.
Millions of people that are doing that. So now we know why people are excited about it.
Yep.
Because finally it's something they can say, okay, here, just go do
Well,
it.
I mean, we're all on cognitive overload trying to do all the tasks that all this great technology has brought upon us. But, social media and websites and emails and Slack and all this other stuff. It's
Even
a lot.
Curbside takes cognitive load.
It does.
Sitting there at a computer and figuring out, here's my menu. Used to, I would just go to the grocery store and walk down the aisles and just go, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. But not anymore. Now I have to think about it ahead of time and plan the menu and plan and pick up the
Which
time.
you still like doing.
Anyway, so, all right. I think that we had this conversation a couple of years ago.
We did. We've talked quite often about AI's evolution. Where are we going
and
with
Agentic AI was something, it wasn't necessarily called Agentic AI at the time.
No, it wasn't.
But we talked about how, when the AI was going to be able to go off and do a task on its own. And I think that you called that like 3.0.
Well, I put it in 8.8. I called it AI. This was in May of 2024. We did a podcast.
That was a while ago.
And we did a podcast, and I called it was AI 1.0, which was just chatbots. I mean, that was the original. You go to this place, you do a chatbot. That was 1.0. Okay. 2.0, I said the problem with 2.0 is the transition from 1.0 to 2.0 was going to be tough. I said, and it was. And that was when you started talking about workflows. I needed to do something more than just be a chatbot. But to do that, I have to integrate it into all my existing systems, whether it's getting my emails or whether or not it's, you and I worked on ingesting knowledge into the knowledge bases. So we
lot harder than what you think.
We could use it for training and HR kind of things. All of that work was what I called 2.0.
Okay.
And then, but that was very human-centric work, and it was human-centric controls and outputs. 3.0, I said, was going to be when you start creating an infrastructure, layers underneath that allows AI to do these things, but you don't even necessarily understand it. Now, that's not unheard of in technology.
No.
When I started, the operating systems were very crude. The operating system like Windows, before Windows, they were crude. And you understood your hardware better. You understood how the things connected. But at some point, people were like, I don't care about how I talk to my hard drive or all that. So they started creating these abstraction layers to hide the complexity. And over time, we've done that with all technology. So it's not unusual for it to do with AI. The difference is AI is a cognitive service. You're not just hiding the complexity of hardware underneath. So now you're building out this infrastructure underneath. So that's what we said in 2024. So,
and that's what's happening now.
Well, I follow a lot of people, but one of my favorites is Nate B. Jones on YouTube.
He's the guy that wears the beanie.
He's the beanie guy. I think he's sitting in a library or something somewhere. He does his podcast. And he's very analytical. I have caught him using AI a couple of times, making some mistakes, but overall, I think he worked or works for Amazon or something. I mean, and the guy's really smart. But he started talking about these infrastructure layers as well. And I thought of you because your favorite phrase is follow the money.
Follow the money.
And what he talked about was, okay, we're going to have a world where things can do things for me. Well, it can't do much of anything useful if it can't spend money.
Right.
How does that work?
I mean, if I wanted to get me an airline ticket and I wanted to do it all for me, then it's going to have access to spend the money to buy their ticket.
Yes. And there's going to have to be layers underneath, but the money layer is first. And you know what? Why did you start using PayPal originally?
It was a nice clean box that I could put some information in, and then I didn't have to go find my wallet and go type in all the information.
On every website you went to, if they took PayPal, they already had your information.
Right.
And you didn't have to distribute your information to all these websites, which was something that made you uncomfortable as well.
More secure.
It felt more secure. Whether it was or not, it felt more secure, which is how I think Elon Musk made his first money, was investing in PayPal. Anyway, so Nate talked about agent wallets and he talked about Coinbase. I didn't know what Coinbase was, so I looked it up.
Okay.
It's Bitcoin stuff.
Oh, okay.
I mean, basically it's a company that you can buy Bitcoin, all this other stuff, but they're talking about wallets, specifically agentic wallets. So you can have your coins to use for these transactions.
So it'd be almost like, okay, I'm not going to give you access to my actual bank account where my paper money is located.
You would have
at
no access to the
necessarily.
bank account at all. It's your
So
point. It's your Bitcoin account.
It's almost like a debit card, but in Bitcoins.
It is. Bitcoins are very hard to keep secure because of the nature of a Bitcoin. If someone gets your Bitcoin wallet,
Yeah.
they don't have, once they have it, you can never get the
That's
money
it.
back. It's gone. And there's been lots of people with hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars stolen from the Bitcoin accounts. So that wallet better be good.
Mhm.
That he also talked about Stripe, Google, PayPal, and Visa. Looking at
Okay.
these,
I'm very familiar with Stripe and
Yeah.
Square, the
Yeah.
two.
well, and you would expect if I'm going to take payments, Visa, MasterCard ought to lead the
They're
way.
the big ones. Yeah.
They tend to not lead the way, but they should. But they made most of their money putting in these back-end infrastructures that allowed you to spend your money using credit cards, right? So he talked a lot about that. And he also talked about, like we talked about Web 3.0 or AI 3.0, he talked about web. What's next? What do we talk about? Indexed web was first.
Right. That's the
Actually, it was the
old one.
unindexed web.
Right.
Then it was the indexed web.
Okay. The unindexed web is now known as what?
Really old.
Yeah. No.
Oh, you're talking about the dark web.
The dark web. I mean, the dark web, the unindexed web is when
It
you
is
have
the
to have an
now-
IP address. You have to know
So
exactly where
you have to
you're
know,
going.
and that's what I first started using. Before the web was even the web, that was,
We would communicate.
we had tools like Gopher and FTP tools. But anyway, so then we talk about the indexed web. That was the next one.
When search engines showed
Right. And then we started talking about the AI web, which was generative web. Well, now he's talking about agentic web. And what he's talking about was it literally bifurcating or splitting into two different types of web. You have the human-based. Let's go back to your DoorDash, not DoorDash, but your curbside. In a human-based version of that, you go to their website, you look up the stuff, you fill up a cart,
Mhm.
you then either have a
Checkout.
credit card, you go to checkout, you have a credit card. All of that stuff requires you to do it yourself.
Correct.
That's the human web.
Correct.
An agentic web, you say, here's my grocery
Here's
list.
a picture of my menu for next week.
Yes.
That's handwritten crudely in my calendar.
And it works because we've done that.
And you make my grocery list. Oh, by the way, you go to my smart fridge and you see what I already have in my refrigerator.
Right.
Or my smart freezer.
Your shopping
my smart
agent.
pantry.
Yes.
And then you make that and you pay for it.
So-
and you set up the curbside delivery, knowing when I get off work this afternoon, yada, yada, yada. And so
In the nomenclature you would use for the agentic web, you would say my shopping AI goes to my inventory AI that keeps track of what I have, gets my current inventory. My cooking or recipe AI
goes to my NutriCoach.
is
figure
the
out
one
what I
who
need to
actually
eat.
asked the shopping to do it in the first place, but maybe you started with it and your cooking agent or whatever. So you have these agents that can spin off to do these different tasks. With the OpenClaw, it's got like a main control. If you're an IT person, basically it's what's called a cron job. It's a background task.
It's called a what?
Cron job.
Cron job.
Yeah, I'll go into that some other time. But basically, you've got this background task that's running, and every once in a while, it's like a task scheduler. It kicks off and says, I need you to go out and see what I'm supposed to look at when I wake up. So think of it as going to sleep, and then you wake it up. You decide how often it wakes up, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes. So let's say you say, I want to go shopping. Well, maybe that triggers it to wake up now, or maybe it just adds it to a task list, and when it wakes up, it does it. But either way, it now says, I've got this main control agent, and it goes, okay, based on what she's asking, I need this agent, this agent, this agent, this agent.
So it goes and it calls those agents.
Yes.
It's like it's got its little army. It's going to call those
That's
special.
pretty literally
things.
what it is. It's a little army
Little
of things.
army doing all sorts of the.
In the shiny.
So what we've been talking about with this next type of web, that's where it needs to evolve.
Well, this is where it is going to evolve.
So,
'cause
and
it's
that
about
needs to
the money.
happen before the little army can go out and do what it needs to
It
do.
opens a lot of opportunities. Here's where I wanted to do the dry run for our next discussion with the college students.
Okay.
Because I felt good about the conversation at A&M, but I felt like the examples weren't good enough. And
Well, we didn't have a lot of time.
well,
but-
I didn't put enough thought into what does that exactly mean, these opportunities. And so I felt like, because I listened to all the other people talking that day, and they were very vague. We were less vague, but I still thought we were too vague. So then I put together this material, about, okay, what does that mean? And I wanted to apply it to something that you are extremely familiar with, the restaurant business. We're in a small town. Now, just
Sorry, I need a drink
yeah,
before we talk about
I
the
could go off
restaurant.
on a whole tangent about how a small town is like a little ecosystem that's interconnected, you know, the plumbers, the electricians, the restaurants, whatever. But let's focus on the restaurant. And I'm quoting you. Restaurants are about location, food presentation, and atmosphere. That's what you used to tell me.
I agree.
I was listening. Well, you said it, so you should agree. But the biggest problems that they have, again, this is something you told me, but I was painfully aware of this one is, biggest problems they have are employees. I mean, if you go into most restaurants, the cameras aren't pointing at the people sitting at the restaurant, they're pointing at the employees. So there's a lot of problems, not showing up for work, theft, whatever.
Well, yeah,
So
it's a lot of it's a cash-based business and
but
stuff. So
I didn't want to talk about that in terms of agents because that's a much bigger problem.
mm-hmm.
And the AI that I was interacting with, it really wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
But I don't. I wanted to pick something more obscure. Why? Because when you start talking about identifying opportunities, most people pass over the ones
that are right in front of them.
Well, you did this. It wasn't that, it's not that you don't know it's there. It's just you've got bigger fish to fry, right?
Yes,
bigger fish.
Yes.
So you skip over the stuff because you've got bigger fish to fry.
Right.
See, I threw your book. That was a good segue.
That was a good segue.
That was good. That was good.
Put a plug in there for the book.
I did. So I have two problems, and I'm going to give them both of them to you. You still have time. Yes, I'm going to give them both to you.
Okay.
I'm going to let you talk about it a little bit.
Well, I didn't know this was going to be a quiz.
It's a quiz. Okay. Problem number one, small communities have a limited number of customers. Local events matter, which I want you to explain why. How can an agent help? Okay. Because we had this problem big time.
Local events matter. It does matter because in the restaurant business, if you are going to be open on a Saturday and that Saturday
small customer base
happens to be like a chili cook-off, then you are not going to have as many people come into your restaurant because in a small town, you cannot survive in a restaurant business on tourism. You have to have the local buy-in.
So how does an agent help?
Well, one of the problems that we always ran into is that we had a really hard time with keeping up with all the different stuff that was happening.
Why?
In the small town.
Why?
Because there were so many different locations that people were posting
and they
what
were
was
putting
going
on the different people that were putting it on. It wasn't the city always putting it on.
It was like maybe the chamber, maybe it was the chili cook-off people,
or the county, or some organization.
Open people, maybe it was
the rock people.
Right.
That was the ones that stacked rocks.
They never went to one centralized location.
The city tried to keep up, but it never.
It's impossible.
It was hard
to keep up with that. So what you're saying,
if they had a full-time person, which segues to what we're talking about. If they had a full-time person, maybe the city could have kept up. So what's what's the agent going to do for you?
It's going to, now can it go out and like look at things that are being posted?
As long as you give it a tool.
So if
there's two aspects to that. There's a tool, a web search tool, but there's also, which we can't talk about right now because it takes too long, but there's also websites as part of that infrastructure. Websites becoming AI compatible, which is what you're working on our website.
Correct.
How do you make your website more compatible?
So if I had an agent that sole purpose was to keep up with every single event or find every single event.
And what would you really want to know?
And well, I'd want to know, when it was happening and how.
And you told me, I asked you this once and you said, I just want to know who the heck is serving food.
Right. Well, yeah.
If they're serving, if they've got hot dogs, it's not really going to affect us. But if it's a chili cook-off, or they've got a fish fry, or half a dozen others, or maybe they've got caterers coming, whatever.
That. But if there's like a soccer tournament, a little peewee soccer tournament in town on Saturday, and I know all they're going to have is a concession stand, then I'm going to get more business on that Saturday.
Correct.
Because I have more people coming into the town, so I need to staff accordingly.
And they bring a whole team, and they baseball team into it, because remember they used to show up with a bus, and you're like, whoa, where did this come from?
And so
your agent can help you decide. That's why it's open-ended.
Okay.
Because
is this going to help my business? This is going to hurt my business.
Well, and this is the opportunity for that agent. So when I say opportunity, somebody has to create those agents, manage those agents, and help you. We'll talk about an example of that kind of help later and why that's an opportunity. But I want to get the second question in.
Okay.
Number 2, presentation. This one, I threw this in to make it a little harder. Consistent food presentation matters. It also matters that by consistent, I don't just mean it's round burgers. I mean, how you told me it's how you put it on the plate.
75% of your eating experience, in my opinion, is presentation.
So how can a camera on the serving line with an AI agent, and this is loose on the AI agent part, help? And similar thought process for the restaurant's atmosphere as well. You as an owner cannot be there all the time.
Oh, sure you can.
Yeah,
24/7.
felt like it did.
In the office. What are you talking about?
Felt like it. We had it downstairs with a projector.
Yes, we did. So our kids could watch movies.
Anyway.
Okay, so let's take, for example, one of the things that we served a lot of were crab cakes.
That was our signature item.
It was our signature item, which in
Atlanta was weird.
Barbecue City, don't know why we did that.
It was weird.
But whenever I served the crab cakes, we had like a cucumber salad, and we had 2 crab cakes, and then you had like the aioli sauce that we had to do like the A for the Acme Cafe on each one of the crab cakes, and then we did a little smear on the edge of the plate, but the smear couldn't be like not
okay. It had to be
pretty.
specific. You're
Okay.
getting way
So
more detail than we needed.
I was teaching the people on the line how I wanted the presentation to be. This
And you
is
were
what
very
I want the
specific.
plate to look like. Okay. And they didn't do it.
Well, now already large language, we can take a picture of a plate and it'll
Yes.
talk all about it. Why does it need an agent? Well, my opinion is that you want to know more than just a red light, green light when it comes to sending it out. And there's too much variation. It's like if I just take a picture and I say, how does this plate look?
But I could give it, this is what I want the plate to look like.
Correct.
And that it can compare to that image and then give me like a margin of error based on whether it's good enough based on what I say. And then it can give me the information later as to, you had 12 orders of crab cakes go out on your night off that didn't.
You're not thinking agentically right now.
So help me think.
You start talking about probabilities and all that stuff.
That people have.
This is the opportunities for these college students. When you start talking about probabilities and all that kind of stuff, language models are good at open-ended problems and they're good at helping you come to conclusions, but they can't tell you 12% of these didn't meet your standard, most likely. But OpenCV, which is computer vision software, can. That becomes a tool. So what the agent says is, hey, you know what? I want you to keep an eye on things for me. Mm-hmm. I want you to keep an eye on the presentation. I want to keep an eye on the atmosphere of the restaurant. So the agent could literally start a cron job that once a minute took a picture. It could also, every time a plate's put on that serving thing you used to put it on, it takes a picture of it, and then it hands that off to another agent that maybe uses computer vision to look at it, make an analysis of it, put a green light, red light, but it also builds knowledge for you. Hey, you know what? There was a lot of change in this. I'm getting feedback from my tool that there was a lot of variation. So you can kind of make it think a little bit like you. It's not going to replace you, but it can help you with that, making sure things are.
Hell, anyway. I'd like to have a camera in the actual restaurant. No, I no longer own a restaurant, but I'd love to have had a camera in the actual restaurant to basically flag when a table had not been bussed quick enough.
Yes, you can do that with computer vision as well. But if you just use basic computer vision, it's going to be very rigid. It's going to be very fragile. In other words, you're going to have to put a very distinct workflow in it. But with a language model watching the images for you, it's a different conclusion. We're going to run out of time.
Okay.
I said earlier that I wanted to kind of give an example of how I thought that, from a thought process, how that applied. But I also, when I was talking to you about this podcast originally, one of the things you said, which I thought was very accurate, is you said these kind of opportunities are not going to make $1 billion company.
No.
What they are going to make is someone a good living. And when you talk about small towns, even when you talk to an AI about a small town, it wants to talk about how to bring people into the town, bring people in, how are you going to advertise? How are you going to market? How are you going to do your website? But in reality, servicing your local customers and doing, you can make money at it. You can see the opportunity to make money. And the example that I thought of was the point of sale system. We had a PC for the thing, and you bought point of sale software.
Yes.
But you spent 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Long time.
I mean, you spent evening after evening after evening configuring that. Now, a lot of people would have paid somebody Somebody who, is living in the small town that wants to do that. You can't make a living configuring point of sale systems in Atlanta, though. There's not enough of them.
No, but you could in the hill country.
But
possibly,
not only that, but that could be one aspect of what you do. And think of it again, Agentic AI.
It's a service that you could offer multiple services.
Moving the point of sale side, leading to what you just said, multiple services. What if I have a team of agents? What if I've set up, and maybe I'm using OpenAI on the back end or Anthropic or whatever as part of that agent. Part of it I'm running locally. Part of it I'm running like at the school. We have a hybrid system. We have a PC running that does speech to text, text to speech, N8N. It's got services that I make available that are running completely locally. I've also got Olama, so I can run smaller models. Somebody could train a smaller model to be your restaurant. In other words, they fine tune that model to do a better job at what you want to do in that restaurant. And so it becomes one of the agents that can get spun up to do work for you, which saves you money. Having the expertise to do that, one aspect, but like a temp agency, where you're providing AIs. And the thing is, though, will it take away some people's jobs? Probably. But it also is going to open new opportunities for someone who's running this agency that has agents.
Right.
That does it, for somebody who's got expertise in training models for this type of thing, or somebody who just wants to open their own small business and they need an agent to help them analyze the best way to do it. I mean, there's so many opportunities. I'm focused on small towns because we focus on small towns, but think about the ties to the school system. I mean, anyway, I'm over. We're running out of time.
All right.
I think this was a good test run for our discussion.
I think so too. I can definitely work with this. And
considering you do the presentations, I wanted to give you some new stuff, but I wanted to give it to you early enough so you couldn't accuse me of giving it to you the day before, like I've done in the past.
I have a couple of weeks.
You have a couple of weeks.
My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Thank you guys for listening in. We appreciate it, and we hope that y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.